So I think I've learned from this movie that I have become immune to jump scares, because there's a certain point in this movie where a scene happens like this, and I was just like, and that can't be good, right? I mean, we're supposed to have reflexes, but I think I've seen so many movies with jump scares now that I just don't have reflexes anymore because I'm so used to things just popping out at me. So now when people are like, hey, think fast, I'm just like, oh, fuck my balls. The Visit. So this movie has a pretty basic premise. A couple kids are going to see their grandparents that they've never seen before, and old people are kind of creepy, and it's them kind of discovering that, right? Normally I would list the actors here, but I don't know any of their names off the top of my head, which I probably should. But I will say the acting in this movie was really good. Especially that old lady, man. She was creepy, dude. She does this like sweet and innocent thing, kind of like old ladies are, but at the same time she'll say things really subtly that make you go, huh? And the old guy, he's like a nice enough guy. He's not as creepy as the old lady, but he's still kind of unsettling. And then two kid actors are also pretty well. A lot of times you run the risk when you have kid actors of maybe throwing the audience out of the movie because they can tell that they're acting, but these kids do pretty well. Another good thing about this movie is that it is pretty original. I don't know if I've seen any other movies where kids are going to visit their grandparents and the grandparents are creepy, you know? And from my understanding, M. Night Shyamalan, who directed this movie, pretty much did this on his own dime. I could be wrong about that, but that's what I heard. And he just kind of filmed this for fun and then brought it to the studios, who ended up putting it in the theaters. So I think he's kind of gotten away from his egocentric, you know, big budget movies that weren't doing too well and kind of got back to his roots, which you've probably heard a bunch of other people say too. And this movie does have a classic twist ending, which M. Night Shyamalan is known for. Now, when I first saw the twist ending, I was like, okay, wow, I didn't see that coming. But then the more I thought about it, I was like, wait, that doesn't work unless everybody in this movie is just an imbecile. Which I guess makes me an imbecile because I didn't see it coming, and I probably should have. Also, another issue with this movie, which may or may not be an issue for you, is that it's not really scary, and it's marketed as a scary movie. Now, it is creepy and unsettling and disturbing, but to me that's very different than scary. Scary is like, I am scared for my life right now, I think I'm going to get murdered and die. Whereas creepy and unsettling is like old people shitting their pants and saying weird shit. And shit is literally involved in this movie in a couple scenes that I'll let you discover that for yourself. Another issue with this movie is that while all the actors are good, I feel like the kids in this movie, again, their acting is fine, but they're playing almost like a comedic role, or at least the little boy is, saying a lot of things that are funny during scenes that are probably supposed to be creepy. And it makes you laugh instead of feeling scared, which... And there's some dramatic scenes in this movie, which are very well acted, mind you, but I feel like this movie couldn't figure out what tone it wanted. Did it want to be scary? Did it want to be dramatic? Did it want to be a comedy? It was kind of all three, and each scene was kind of, let's make this scene creepy, let's make this scene funny, let's make this scene dramatic. And none of it really meshed well together. It's like having three different puzzles that are great puzzles, but you only take a few pieces from each one and try to put them together, and you have this thing that doesn't really go together. If that makes any sense at all. I suck with analogies sometimes. I feel like this movie would have really benefited if the kids had been more scared in the movie. You want to relate to those kid characters, like you're almost in their position, because this whole thing is a found footage movie. And so you're kind of seeing it from their point of view. So if they're scared, you're going to be more scared. Whereas in this movie, they're not that scared, so you're not that scared. And speaking of the found footage aspect of this movie, I used to love found footage movies when they first come out. And then it kind of got to a point where I was getting really sick of them. This movie, though, I didn't mind the found footage aspect of it, because at first I was getting kind of annoyed because there was like fading and stuff, and it would do like a little time-lapse thing. So I'm like, if this is found footage, it wouldn't just look like that. It looks edited, you know? But then it shows a scene with a girl sitting there on her computer editing the video that you're watching, so you're like, oh, okay, so we're watching the edited version of it. That makes sense, and I thought that was kind of a cool little twist on it, which you haven't really seen before. And the fact that she's filming a documentary of her grandparents makes sense why she's filming everything, because a lot of times in found footage movies you're like, why are you still filming right now? But for her, she's trying to document everything, so it makes sense. But in the end, I do think this movie would have benefited a lot if it wasn't a found footage movie. If it was just a normal movie and you saw these kids in this creepy old people house and they were scared. I feel like the movie would have been way better that way. I could be wrong, but that's how I feel, you know, what can you do? So in the end, the acting's good, it's an original story, it's very well directed, but the themes in the movie are kind of a blobby mess, and the tones throughout are kind of shifting and don't meld well. So what are you gonna do with this movie? Wait till it's out of theaters, because you're only gonna have a one-night stand, and you're gonna forget its name later. Alright, thanks for watching my video, guys. Remember to like the video and subscribe. I promise I'm getting a new microphone soon, hopefully by my next review. So remember to watch my other videos if you can handle it. Go.